call this meeting to order. It is a special call Tuesday, May 10th, Fountain City Council for our budget workshop and one item of business. If y'all please bow your heads for invocation. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful day and this beautiful community, and hope that you will guide us as we look through the city's finances and continue to bless our residents, our businesses, and our staff in everything they do. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have one item of business. It's an appointment. The City Attorney, King Large Law, LLC. Mr. Bell, do you have anything or do you just want to do that?
No, Mayor. Mr. Holmes, who has served the city for around 15 years, has decided to retire from the City of Fountain and the City of Simpsonville effective May 31st. And so we need to appoint a new city attorney effective June 1.
Okay, let's make sure. All right. Is there a motion to appoint King Large Law LLC as the city attorney effective June 1st? Thank you, Mr. Clem. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Mr. Garrett. Any questions or comments?
Is there a transition plan?
We're actually in that transition period right now in the month of May. We've signed an engagement with King Large Law, and they've actually been in contact with David Holmes, transferring of cases and things of that nature. So have about a month of transition period.
Is there a plan?
Plan?
Yeah, I mean, will they meet regularly and ensure any outstanding judgments that we have are taken care of and so forth?
I will continue to work on that. I'd be happy to talk to you a little bit more offline too. We'll definitely make sure that we're set for June 1.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right, next. Budget. Sean, Naomi, I thank you in advance for all your work and for all the department heads, but y'all take it away.
All right, thank you, Mayor, members of council. Good evening. First and foremost, I want to thank our Assistant City Administrator and CFO, Naomi Reed, for her outstanding work as always, as well as our finance team led by Kira Deloche for all of their contributions this year. Thank you to our Human Resources Director, Rebecca Mejia Ward, for leading the charge when it came to all things personnel related with this budget. Lastly, in the fall of 2021, I charged all of our department heads with really engaging their employees to develop their budget for this year. For the most part, our departments really embraced this concept and put in a lot of hard work, and I appreciate having such great staff. Fountain went through and has come out of COVID-19 in very strong position. Our residential, commercial, and industrial growth contributed to us exceeding our revenue projections in business licensing and as well as permitting for the budget year that will be ending June 30th. So next, I'd like to just quickly paint a picture of just where we are as a city as of May 2022. As you all know, the Dollar Tree and Starbucks opened on 418 a few weeks ago. Quick Trip closed on their property on 418 a few days ago. The Prisma Health facility on 418 right across 385 is under construction, and 7-Eleven should be breaking ground right next to it soon. And we will be having more announcements for 418 coming later this year. The Fountain Walk development near the Beatty plant is currently under construction. Voodoo Brewing in the old Mutual Home Store is set to open by late June, and the small building as part of the Mutual Home Store should begin its renovation later this year as well. Our flour mill project is set to begin this summer. Swanky Steer opened a few weeks ago. In the Attic is set to open shortly. I believe they've received a CO. We have another 1 million to 1.5 million square feet of industrial space that's looking to be annexed into the city limits. You all are set to approve on second reading this Thursday an ordinance which gets the wheels in motion for the Woodside Village project. And some of our other projects that we have going on or just recently completed, our splash pad area just got a really good facelift. Right now we're getting cost estimates on I-385 for our welcome signage. Sanctified Hill Park Phase 1, that project is currently out for bid. Fairview Street Park basketball court upgrades, we're putting those out to bid here probably in the next week. Woodside Streetscape is about to go out for bid. Our stage cover at Commerce Park is currently in the design process. We are awaiting the full survey for our Main Street streetscape. That's Code Transco handling that for us. We were third in line behind Malden and Simpsonville for getting survey work done on streetscapes, but that should be done soon. We're on target for our groundbreaking ceremony this summer for our new natural gas and public works facility. We'll be releasing our comprehensive plan update RFQ this month. We are currently getting 2 of our downtown parking lots for potential improvements surveyed. We're working with GCRA on a restroom facility for the Miracle League field at Emmanuel Sullivan Sports Complex. Our downtown events are attracting record crowds, and we have numerous downtown building owners that are set to undergo renovations with the assistance of our Main Street Grant Program. So with that, I would say right now the state of the city is good, and we've prepared a budget for you all for next year that I believe reflects a lot of the goals that you guys set in our retreat earlier this year.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Thank you, Mayor, Council. I too would like to thank our department heads for their contribution to creating this balanced budget totaling just over $34 million, which represents a 5% decrease in our amended budget over prior year. Just to, this slide that you see on the screen talks about our vision and our mission. Mayor McLear, last budget year, you made a statement, a vision statement, which was to provide and preserve a sense of community through shared experiences. We continue that vision throughout this budget, along with the budget goals and priorities set in your annual council work retreat. Also on this slide, you see our population by age, by race, and our medium household. It shows that our city is a young city, a very affluent city, but also has a good balance of families, married couples, and even non-married. So I believe this budget took into account the economic indicators, your council priorities and goals, in keeping with the vision and mission of the city of Fountain. We started our budget year in November. Like Sean said, we had a department head retreat. It was our first annual department head retreat. During that time, we talked as a executive team and looked at some of the challenges facing the department. Talked about some of our successes and what we'd like to see different in our budget. And the high priority was personnel, which we know that came through your council retreat as well as in our department head retreat. Let's go back some. Early December, we had hosted a round of budget meetings between personnel and operating and capital. Went into January, February, and due to just some time, it get even extended on into March and April. Finance had an opportunity to fine tooth and go through each line item and prepare a proposed budget for our city administrator to go through and balance. And here we are, May 10th at the budget workshop. Moving forward, the next few items to get to an adopted budget would be May 11th first reading, which is on Thursday. June 2nd, we have a public hearing where we will hear comments from the public if they choose on the proposed budget. We'll have the budget on the website for them to have enough time to review it, ask questions. We invite the public to send emails, reach out to you, relay those questions to myself and to Mr. Bell. And then finally, we're requesting your adoption and approval of the second reading of the FY23 budget. Do you have any questions about the timeline? So what we hope to accomplish tonight is to review the budget priorities and council goals that were discussed in the annual council retreat, discuss budget highlights of all of the funds, review our revenue and expenditure assumptions in response to your budget goals and priorities, and then review our capital plan for FY23. The next slide represents I tried to put the council goals and priorities that you presented to staff in your annual retreat into overarching buckets. Those buckets being governance and organizational effectiveness, economic, community development and public safety, community and outreach, infrastructure and facility improvement. And during the retreat, there was about 16 goals and 14 to 15 of them made it to the budget priority list. Some of them did not speak to the budget directly, and so those were not included on this slide. We talked about employee compensation, ranking very high on your council priorities list, expanding our legal firm representation and zoning regulation updates under our organizational effectiveness and governance. Under economic and community development, we talked about increasing code enforcement efforts, and you'll see that reflected in the budget. Attain police accreditation, and evaluate public transportation. Over in community and outreach, improving internal and external communications. We will continue that through our community relations department. And internally, we had a communications assessment, which we are working through and seeing some great improvements as a result of it. Increase our press releases, and finally, state legislator engagement. Under infrastructure and facility improvements, just under employee compensation was enhancing parks and recreational facilities, which you will see the budget reflected here. We budgeted $500,000 for Sanctified Hill park renovation. We also have Sean went to Lawrence County and was approved for $75,000 from Lawrence County ARP funds, and so we will continue to look for funding sources to make that a reality. Develop a parks master plan, improve and increase downtown parking, road paving and sidewalk improvements, and finally interstate projects. You'll see that in the capital plan for this coming year as well. So, as previously mentioned, our total budget is just over $34 million across all of our funds. Our general fund operating saw an increase as proposed at 6%, $11,764,000. It does include debt service, and it also includes the net transfers of the fund transferring out to solid waste fund, and then transfers in from ARPA and from our natural gas utility. The enterprise funds, which is our utilities, natural gas and sewer, saw an increase. I don't have that on my slide here. The total natural gas budget is $13,298,000, and the sewer fund just over $1.4 million. It also includes debt service for interest in our enterprise fund and transfers out at just over $2.3 million. And then finally, our solid waste fund saw a 2% reduction in our overall budget, and that is due to some of the division changes that our public works director is recommending in this budget to pull out our our streets and grounds division. There will be no allocation to the solid waste fund for the streets and grounds department. It will strictly be sanitation services and recycling. Do you have any questions? Next slide here is our hospitality tax fund. You'll see a 17% increase in that hospitality tax fund, which speaks just to what Mr. Bell spoke to earlier about our growth in the city. We have some restaurants coming online that are contributing to the increase here. And then our ARPA fund is represented here at $425,000 of unencumbered. We did allocate, as proposed in this budget, a portion of our second tranche to some capital improvements and equipment. lastly, this is our other non-major funds. $343,000 is made up of our victims fund, road improvement, and local option sales tax. So the total of those funds is $343,000. I believe here is where we will spend most of our time, talking about our capital improvement plan for FY23. Just over $5 million in capital projects and CIP, and that represents a 54% reduction, which is just due to our public works and natural gas facility coming in the budget in this current FY, as well as our streetscape, $7.5 million. So our total capital equipment projects last year was $13.1 million. So that's why it's a large reduction in our from prior year. Okay. So we're going to pause right here and go through our capital improvement plan. I want to talk about the breakdown of how this plan is funded. And so our natural gas fund will contribute just over $3 million to the capital plan. Our sewer fund will contribute $399,000. Hey, pause. I want to get up and show you what you're looking at on your paper. The handout you have in front of you is the capital improvement plan broken out in front. So it looks like this sheet of paper here. The allocation of funds is on my screen is in your budget book. But if you take a look at your handouts, you will see the capital improvement plan broken out by fund, and it's labeled at the top 5. General fund, ARPA fund, sewer, and natural gas. Yeah. It's broken down by fund.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're speaking the same.
Our general fund will contribute $86,000 to our capital improvement plan. Hospitality, $280,000, and our ARPA fund will contribute $1.8 million for a total of $5.6 million in capital improvement for the FY23.
Yeah. Start with general.
The facilities work trailer. Public works. Facilities maintenance. No. Not out of general fund.
This time on the general fund, capital page there, Chief, can you talk to council a little bit about some of these items that you guys have requested here, like the pole-mounted speed sign, the weapons change, speed trailer, tasers, all that kind of stuff? Any of those? Okay. Can you just kind of run council through your capital requests?
For the firearms, we had in there the transition to the 9mm pistol and the 9mm rifle. When we transitioned to the 45, which we have now in 2016, we went from the 40 caliber to the 45. In about 5-6 years we've had it, several things have come about. Well, one is we found that the size of this gun, the frame of it, for our smaller officers who have smaller hands, is a little more challenging. Our academy is 9mm, that's what they train on. So the way we have to do it right now is we have to, so that we don't have to buy 45 ammo to send down there, we let them go down there, shoot the 9mm that the academy provides, so they provide the ammo. Then they get to qualify a number of times with our duty weapons back here. But we just do that just because that's what the academy is has now is a 9mm. So we, there was also a time when we went to the 45, I'll tell you some different things. There was a concern about the ballistics, about the over-penetration of the 9mm. About 6 years ago, we went to the 45. That has changed now. The FBI got involved. They have the 9mm now. Sheriff's Office, I think about 70% of the agencies in South Carolina now have the 9mm. The ammo is also cheaper. It's not a huge statement, but about for a box, a bulk that we buy, we're saving almost $70, $80 a box for that. So those are kind of some of the main things. One of the things, and also we had in there the rifles, those 9mm. So everything's 9mm. And one of the things that I've recognized that since I've really come in the door here is sometimes we have enough to issue out, or not enough, have issue out shotguns, but not for everybody. And so the goal was to be uniform across the board. So when you come in the door now, you're gonna get a 9mm pistol and you get a 9mm rifle. And that's kind of the goal. Instead of having, right now, if you have a rifle, you can buy your own, and then we train you on it. We're gonna qualify you before you carry it with you, but most officers that have them have AR-15s. So this is the AR-9. And on top of that, we were able to get this to Palmetto State Armory, where they were gonna provide we're requesting 30 of them for $185 a piece, which really unheard of.
30 what?
Sir?
39s?
30 rifles, the 9mm rifles. And then they're made right here in the state. And so then the 9mm pistols, they're also, if we do the transition, they're gonna give us so much for the 45s for that. So that's why I think it came out to, with the holsters, I think it's including this, it came up to like $14,000 the transition. But that's kind of the main reasons for that aspect of it for the firearms.
How short shotguns are we?
Oh, we don't have enough we're not even half the department has.
Would it make sense to not arm each vehicle with a 9 rifle and a shotgun?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely it'd be, but we were just, that would certainly be something we'd like to do, but we were gonna try to do it all this time around, but it absolutely would be. Because we're gonna continue to train on shotgun, we'll do that every year, but.
We just need to pick you up on
No, I'm not talking about that. So yes, it would, absolutely, it'd be something that we
How
would.
many we would need?
I'd have to get a count for it, but I would
Could
probably
you do that?
about 15 to 20.
Could you get a count and give us a cost on that?
Yes, sir.
Since we have got the all-new fleet of vehicles, we might as well just get it right. As far as I
Certainly will.
Maybe get a good deal with that too, tack on the
Yes.
test.
Yeah, the shotguns were initially, I think they were just a little bit more, but the rifle was just, that's
Probably used the shotguns
that's
up
awfully
on
good.
35 years ago, be my guess. That Winchester's 870.
Oh, we got a couple, maybe a couple of those left, but most we got now Remingtons. What's, something else on that?
No, I think the other stuff is things related more to traffic safety, speeding. So pole-mounted speed sign for school zones, and then another speed trailer. Our previous one was purchased in 2009.
Yeah, the speed trailer we got now, I will say, we're getting requests continuously for that, and it's probably on borrowed time. So it's out all the time, so to have another, to have another one, especially one that probably, I guess now, 13 years later, probably a little more advanced and gives us some really, really good counts and maybe has some other aspects of it. So that's probably for that. And I think the other is where you actually can put the speed limit sign, the signs, and it gives you your speed as you go by. You've probably seen it before, and I think it does counts for you too, if I'm not mistaken also.
That was my question, it counts, it does
Almost
the
positive.
same data?
Yes, sir, it doesn't count by, like, speed,
Yeah.
number, date and time range, all of that. It gives a really good breakdown for us with one manpower.
You gotta take down pictures of the cars, doesn't it?
No, sir, that's a different piece of equipment.
That's a selfie.
Thank you, I'm here at the meeting, so.
taser replacement, does everybody have a taser now?
That would, the taser replacement that is proposed there would have everybody in patrol would have one, including our SROs. Doesn't include investigators or command staff.
All right, I know that you see a work trailer in facilities maintenance. Russell Slack can talk about it, that I think is that for streets and grounds? Oh, facilities maintenance, sorry.
No, it's facilities maintenance for the gentleman who actually built the dive shower sitting behind. Makes him a little more portable, so he doesn't have to haul his equipment around. Would you like me to talk about all of them, all of the capital?
No, let's do it by fund so it's easier for them.
Fair enough. Yeah, but that's what it is, basically, so he can put all his stuff, lock it up, and be more mobile and go to each one of the locations.
All right, and then Mr. Halterwanger, we've got 2 zero-turn mowers. Sounds pretty self-explanatory. Okay, you have any questions? All right. Okay. All right, that's it on general fund. I will turn it back over to Mr. Slatton to talk about sewer.
Okay, for sewer, we're adding a couple of one, a push camera, which allows us to go further up on the property, but basically from a clean out to the main to get into smaller areas. For whatever reason, we don't have one that is currently working, but we're going to remedy that this year. Also, a couple more vehicles for the increased staff. We're going to have if everything goes well, we'll have a new manager, which need a vehicle to get around, and then an ATV to basically go through the easements and the right-of-ways to make sure that there's no leaks or any problems that way.
We flatlined any of those old F-150s that have been around forever.
I think we're going to set them on fire. No.
I mean, they're like 80, what, 90?
Yeah, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them in the 90s, early 90s, mid 90s. We'll put them on Gov Deals. If we can sell them there, we'll get some return on our investment. If not, we'll. I'm not sure, but we usually get something for them on Gov Deals.
This-
Trucks are hot.
But these two right here will replace the two that are.
Those are
One of them will be
new positions.
Yeah, one of them will be brand new for a new position, but one will replace an older sewer box truck or utility
I
truck.
think there's some other ones in the budget for y'all, right? That's not this fund, correct?
Under ARPA.
In ARPA, right? Yeah, so there's, to your point, Phil, I don't know if that's the answer to your question or not, but what I guess his question is are we getting rid of the old ones or is it not, like, when are we, right, that's your question?
The intent is, yes, if there's we usually replace them with the new ones with the old ones. I mean, get rid of the old ones unless we need them for added personnel, but most of the time we put them on Gov Deals and get rid of them.
Yeah, they're pretty old.
Can you talk about the RA grant match for this one?
Yeah, we are, RIA, Rural Infrastructure Authority, has at least two grant cycles a year, maybe even more. And those are up to $500,000 and it's a 25% match. And so we like to budget for that. But there's also going to be a lot of money pushed to RIA through the state's ARP allocation. And we even think that the match will be lowered. And you can even get more than $500,000. So we're anticipating trying to get not only the normal RIA grant, but also the big ARP RIA grant. And both of those would be focused on continuing our sewer pipe replacement, getting rid of the leaky pipes, especially the old clay, the VCP, vitrified clay pipe, and manhole repairs and replacements, stuff like that.
Is it possible, not tonight, but to get a progress report on where we are on that and how many linear feet we think we have? I'm just more curious. I know we're ahead of the call, but,
Right. Next, I will turn it over to Eduardo to talk about natural gas capital.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor, Council. We have a few items. The first item is growth continues very aggressively. We have about 500 new service lines that we anticipate. And that's pretty much about 95% of that money or so, of the 360,000 is for our contractor to install the service lines only. We're buying a mini excavator. Our old one is seen better days. And we need to get it with a quick disconnect because we have a rock hammer that is a Caterpillar. So we need to buy something so we can continue to use our new rock hammer. And then we'll evaluate the condition of existing, whether we'll put it for sale or refurbish it. GIS equipment, Russ and I are going to share a GIS person. We're going to bring GIS in-house. And then we have to equip that person with GPS equipment, computers, etc. Unfortunately, the 5,100 feet of 6-inch high pressure steel that we hope to install this year, due to railroad permitting crossing delays that are ongoing, we're going to have to push the project to next year. So that's why that money is still there. Unfortunately, we were hoping to get that completed, but since we don't have the permit from the railroads, we can't proceed.
Wait, 1 second,
Was that last year?
Yes,
Yeah,
so it was in last year, this year's budget, it won't be spent. So
Correct.
it's not like we're spending that money twice.
No, correct.
Yeah.
We're just rolling it over. That's correct. We are getting a new gas truck line to improve pressures and new developments with the new construction. That's the trunk lines are a lot of times to serve a subdivision. We have to go down a major thoroughfare, so the whole area benefits from it, but it's indirectly to serve the subdivision. So we try to keep it separate. The new Prisma Health building, we're going to spend some money there serving it. You all seen all the activity and growth at Fox Hill. That's to serve that massive warehouse, and now they're planning a third one in the back. So that's either high pressure or a large substation to serve them. New subdivisions, we have more than probably a couple of dozen that are coming, and that's about our biggest expense. The expense is a bit high because plastic pipe is in high demand, and the prices of plastic pipe have skyrocketed. 6-inch plastic squeeze off as we move to install 6-inch plastic in the ground, we need a tool to squeeze it off in the event of an emergency. So we have to buy. We bought one this year that we tested. We really like it, so we're going to buy another one. So we have two to squeeze off that. And they're hydraulic, so that's why they're so expensive, because 6-inch plastic is fairly thick and very hard, so you use a very specialized tool to squeeze it off. We are sharing the cost of furnishing the public works and natural gas facility, and that's furniture money and other equipment in there. And then we need, as we increase our head count, we need trucks. Especially 4x4. We were a little nervous this past winter when we had that severe potential snowstorm that we only have one 4x4, and we need at least 2 more to be able to get around during severe weather, because we still have to be out there to serve our customers. So we need 3 or 4 trucks that are 4x4 and meet the needs of our customers. So that's.
Are those brand new trucks or?
Yes, yeah, 2 250 4x4s. I'm sorry?
It seems like a good deal.
State contract.
That's state contract, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, those are all state contract.
Everyone all right with that? Yeah,
Thank you.
Eduardo?
All right. If you go to hospitality tax, in this year's budget, we budgeted some money for what ended up being just the design of our amphitheater cover. So as you all know, when we have our events in Commerce Park there on that stage, we rent a tent pretty much for the whole summer. It's a pretty big cost. I forget how much we end up paying each summer. Is it $20,000?
Just for the whole year.
For the whole year, we pay $20,000, and you know, this is coming up with my 5th year. I mean, that's a lot of money. And it also, doesn't look right, and I think that we really can do better. And what we're looking to have is a structure that obviously keeps the musician or the performers out of the weather, but also something that would give us maybe possibly a little bit more permanency on lighting and sound and that kind of thing. So right now we've hired some people to help us design that stage cover. They're doing that right now, but then the actual capital to build that is what we've budgeted, the $250,000.
So what are we gonna do coming up June the 1st? Rent a tent?
Oh yeah, this would hopefully would be the last season we would rent a tent. If the timeline goes through like it's supposed to, next year's Sounds of Summer and all of that would have the new cover on it. And then continuing to add to our Christmas decorations. Yep.
Whole banner of racks, just upgrading the Christmas festival with upgraded displays and decorations. And then the last fund would be our ARPA fund. We have an annual replacement plan of our IT this year at $55,000, a little higher than last year. We have some switches at City Hall that need to be upgraded to improve security, speed. The broadband and wireless improvements, I've been meeting with vendors for several months to have Wi-Fi in our downtown area, and this is the cost for the infrastructure. And there'll be some annual costs. We're still looking at it, but we wanted to allocate some funds to broadband in our downtown area. City Hall renovations, if you've been by, you've seen some upgrades. There are still some areas in the building that need to be improved with the carpet flowing throughout, some paint, and just some more security in the building. So that's the budget for that.
Yeah, that was a question that I had. The facilities security upgrades, is that for City Hall?
It is for multiple facilities. So our finance and natural gas office on Weston Street here needs some security updates. And then also there's a portion of that funding for our new public works facility, security there. Okay. And our recreation department as well. Pop-up parks and other Main Street improvements with the our special events department changing to community relations and a focus on Main Street. We are entertaining having pop-up parks in Main Street area and just throughout the city, and that's the budget to fund the equipment for that. Out of the general fund, budgeting for the furniture and fixtures and equipment for the natural gas and public works facility. So that cost of $100,000 is split across 3 funds. $50,000 coming out of natural gas, $25,000 out of sewer, and $25,000 out of general fund. And I know Eduardo and Russ, ARPA, excuse me. I know Eduardo and Russ, they are meeting with vendors, so should have a layout soon for the furniture and fixtures. Radios and communication system. Presently, our public works department operates heavy equipment with cell phones, and so for the safety of our employees and better communication, Public Works Director Slatton would like to have radios for our larger fleet and make sure that our employees are safe while they're operating trash trucks and large sewer jet vac trucks. Recreation Department, vehicle replacement plan, wanted to start that. Previous years we've not funded vehicles in the Recreation Department, and so they've been getting hand-me-down trucks from other departments, and so we wanted to make sure that they have vehicles that will run throughout the city safely. So 2 new vehicles for Recreation Department, the $500,000 for Sanctified Hill Park, sanitation equipment, Tink Claw, and the conversion. And this is a piece of equipment that attaches to another vehicle to make picking up the brush. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. More efficient, and it's not the high cost of getting a new larger piece of equipment. Yes, sidearm loader. Learned a lot of Public Works terms. In the fire department, annually they request SCBA's bunker gear and headsets, and so we funded this out of ARPA. That's the total budget of the 3 items: headsets around 16,000, bunker gear just under 100, and SCBA is making up the rest of that.
What's the life cycle, chief, on bunker gear? Is there a standard that has to be replaced?
About 5 years.
5 years, is that a standard that's required?
So bunker gear, I know, one of the big things is that or whatever their national is recommending that everybody has a spare set, and that's to help alleviate that cancer risk. And so that's one of the things that they're trying to do, is so that everybody has a second bunker set. And then on the SCBA's, that's self-contained breathing apparatus. That's what they use to breathe in fires. And those have a life cycle of 10 years, and ours are, I believe, past that. And it is absolutely time to replace them.
So is this a extra set of bunk gear? Is this that second set, or is this just the generic, the normal?
It'd be a new turnout, but then the one they have now would be their spare.
Okay.
Right.
So they're okay on their timeline to still be used as a spare?
What we've been trying to do is replace 3 pair a year, every year for the past several years, and so we still may need to replace them in an older year, but most of them are within that 5-year timeline.
Yeah. So really the main purpose of the turnout gear is to have that second set. I'll take the next one. Splash pad, parking improvements, as I mentioned. We're getting that parking lot and the one that's behind Steam and Sweet Catherine's. Both of those are 2 probably most important parking lots in downtown. Both of them need some TLC. We feel like we can potentially get more parking at the splash pad. It can be done a little bit better. It's a tight fit through there. It's kind of funky the way the spaces are in there. And then also the one over at Steam and Sweet Catherine's just doesn't look real good either. It needs to be resurfaced, and it probably just needs new design, needs a landscape architect to take a look at it. We'd like to do that for both of those. And so that's...
They're not gonna take parking spots away from it, are they?
No. The idea at the splash pad would be, either one of those, it would be parking neutral. We definitely won't take any, but the idea would hopefully be to add some.
Can we come to a conclusion on the hardware store?
They have the ability to apply for that grant
Okay.
to help get to that level. And I don't think we've gotten anything official from them yet.
Mr. Clemmer, you were talking about old trucks in Public Works. We've got 2 there for our streets department. And then wayfinding signage phase 3, that's what I was mentioning earlier. That is for the interstate signage. 1 at exit 26 and 1 at 23, which was a council goal.
I think I linked, after you talked about it, that was the broadband and wireless improvements that we're having.
So between Sean and myself, we've met with several vendors. We will be going out for bid on them, but just getting cost estimates, we've estimated it to be around $75,000 for the infrastructure for downtown.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, that's what I thought, or you said it was.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
And then, although not capital, but still funded out of the ARPA, we plan to continue the grant program for the Main Street facades, our nonprofits, and the relaunch grant. And that leaves an unencumbered amount of $425,835. We did have some capital requests that we did not fund. Georgia Street, we pushed that down the road just because we have budgeted in our plan to have a parks master plan. And instead of just, attacking parks one by one without any type of plan or ranking, we decided to push that down the road. A turf tank robotic field painter. We have additional personnel for the recreation department. Want to see how that works out before we add that type of equipment. Has a price tag of $56,000. The lightning warning system. There was some similar discussions about that as well. There's electrical needs at Emmanuel Sullivan Park that we need to work out before we fund that project completely. And then a replacement curtain for the center stage, the activity center stage, and some storage. There were still some internal discussions in that department as well. We wanted to make sure we have the best plan before funding that. And then a golf cart and community relations. There are multiple golf cart requests across the city. Wanted to get a plan, maybe there's some sharing, maybe there is some better options before we fund individual golf carts in every department.
The departments were asking us to be like Oprah this year. Like, you get a golf cart, everybody wanted a golf cart this year. And Naomi and I don't necessarily think that's the wisest decision to every department to have a golf cart, be out there buying 3, 4, 5 golf carts. So we're gonna kind of come up with a plan there, see what best fits the city's needs.
Are there any questions on ARPA and any of the capital requests? The next budget highlight is our personnel budget, and we sent around a summary of some of the personnel budget increases that you will see in the proposed budget that we're asking for your approval. The proposed budget has an increase of personnel at the number of 20 full-time and 1 part-timer, so represented 20 and a half. We have a 3% COLA budgeted as well. And we are responding to the state's increase of our health insurance cost of 18.1%. The impact to our FY23 proposed budget for health insurance over our current year budget is just over $72,000. But in the next coming year, I believe the next 3 years, we will see the total impact of that increase at $152,000 for current subscribers.
Is that every year you're talking about, you add up this year, next year, and the year after?
So in FY23, because we're on calendar year, we will see a $72,000 increase. And then when it
the real
becomes.
number's 150.
Correct, yes, sir.
That's assuming they hold it at,
Well, we.
yeah, they won't roll back, but this is assuming they won't go up.
Correct,
Right.
yes.
Well, and it's only gonna go up as you add staff too, so.
Correct.
Yes.
Which is needed.
The state just gave us an 18% bill.
You
Can we
do,
ask some questions about these positions?
yes,
Is this the time to do that?
it is. You do have in front of you a handout that has each position proposed as well as the corresponding departments. And so in our administration department, we have budgeted at part of the year an administrative coordinator who will also be trained as city clerk as Sandra moves into her full-time capacity as a generalist.
What is an administrative coordinator?
Administrative assistant, so someone at the front desk. When Fred, who is our current public works coordinator, moves out to the new public works facility, that front desk will be vacant.
Chief?
What, hold on. I wanted Sandra to speak on that position real quick.
Okay. As you know, about a year ago, I started working with Rebecca in the HR department. Didn't realize, she's always said she needed another person, and got in there and started helping her with that, and she definitely needed another person. Just as we've been talking back and forth over the past several months, I thought, you know what? This is a great opportunity. Because she only had me part-time. So she's wanting a full-time person. I said, I would love to do the job full-time. This might be a good time for council to find another city clerk. I will be here to help train them in succession planning and that type thing. And they were all for it. They they were excited about it. I'm very excited about it. And we just wanted to explain that's why
Makes sense.
I was wanting to make the change.
As long as you're still here, it's fine.
Thank you.
Okay. Chief Hamilton, did I read somewhere, I think, in the agenda that Naomi forwarded, we're gonna add an administrative sergeant?
Yes, sir, that was for the, to handle accreditation, especially accreditation manager, and also to handle our evidence, take care of evidence room.
Don't we have an administrative lieutenant doing that now?
We do, and that will free them up to be involved in their, involved in our, coordinating all our training, doing our training, and they also, that administrative lieutenant also supervises the, school resource officers and our codes enforcement. So that's why that, we, created that position for that lieutenant up also to do some other things. But somebody's gotta do it for accreditation. We can't do it the way we've been doing it now because we've been using a patrol sergeant to go through and try to get all the accreditation done in addition to supervising the shift.
Okay. Chief Myers, 3 full-time firefighters. When is the expected completion of opening up Station 3? And will we need these positions prior to that?
Well, actually, Station 3's been put back, they'll probably talk about it more than I can, but we really need personnel now for the growth we're having on that side of 3 and 5. So we'll probably add 1 over there and 2 more over here. The
1 at Station 2?
Station 3, is kind of on the back burner right now.
Mr. Clomer. So right now our fire department has 3 shifts, 7 on a shift. Most often, there's going to be 6 on a shift because there's usually 1 person on vacation, somebody's sick, somebody's on FMLA, what have you. So they're typically operating 3 on a shift, 2 out of Station 2, and then 4 there. So what this 3 does is bump that up to have 1 additional person on those shifts. So you would have 8 per shift, and then if you're down 1, then at least you've got 7. In order to open a Station 3, that Station 3 is going to have at least 6 firefighters. So in order for us to even think about opening up a Station 3, we basically need 9 firefighters. And so that's why we've acquired the land. We still want to build it, but right now our fire department, we don't have the personnel to staff it. And with construction costs the way they are, I just think that we need to be smart about building a building before we can staff it.
I don't disagree with that. It's just, adding positions is extremely expensive. Adding 20 new positions is a lot to bite off in 1 year.
I think so.
I mean, it's just a lot. Some of these, I think we need to take another look at this, quite honestly. Some of these I obviously support. We can talk about that in greater detail later, but I think we need to take another look at adding 20 positions.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I appreciate the feedback regarding the list. I just want to make sure that we can circle back to some of the information that was provided by FGP a couple years ago when an internal audit was done, and remind Council to take a look at the fact that these are really not new positions, these are catch-up positions. I would strongly defend that. Obviously, in the end, you can all make a decision about what the city's needs are, but when we have looked at the growth and the workload of the employees as they exist at the present time, because I will tell you, they are very interested in getting more money, obviously, but a lot of them are also very interested in getting more people on their team. We have a lot of folks that are starting to burn out. We have a lot of folks that are overwhelmed. The growth has expanded very quickly, and the head count has not grown with it. So just please keep that in mind when you look at these positions. Yes, there are additions, but they're really not new. They are very much needed so that you can continue to provide excellent services to the citizens of Fountain Inn, while also taking into consideration what the employee needs are for them to be successful as well.
Yeah, when it comes to, so you see in natural gas, which, I hate to think about it like this, but when you look at our two enterprise funds, sewer and natural gas, when you're talking about personnel, both of those are funds that, by definition make money. So they sort of, they pay for those new positions. And so both of those funds have the money to add those positions. Natural gas, obviously, they're going gangbuster. They're wide open. All those subdivisions are not just in the city of Fountain Inn. Those are in Simpsonville. Those are in unincorporated Greenville County, Lawrence County. I think the GIS technician that they're going to share actually is going to save us money. The amount of money that we are spending on an outside GIS person is insane. So bringing that in-house is going to be faster and it's going to save us money. On the sewer side, there's been some changes with REWA. REWA is putting a very tight focus on all of its sub-districts, which are the municipalities, Simpsonville, Fountain Inn, Travelers Rest, Greenville, but then also the special purpose districts, Metro Connects, and that's it now. It was Parker, Berea, Hampton, Wade Hampton, all those. And if we are going to stay in the sewer business, they have given us a lot of new mandates, a lot of things probably that we should have been doing, but a lot of things in the CMOM that we have to do that we just don't have the personnel or manpower to do. If we think that we don't want to be in the sewer business at some point, then I would say, well, no need to add these positions. But at present, I think having our own sewer system makes a lot of sense. I think our recreation department, those numbers speak for themselves. I think every year we're breaking records. And so then you look Public Works, they're adding only one driver. I mean, look at the new subdivisions that we're adding. And then planning and development, the amount of permits and business license and hospitality tax and all that kind of stuff that they're taking, I think that makes sense. But we can certainly talk about that one. Same with a part-time judge that doesn't really cost us a whole lot, but there's some changes in our judicial department, and we think just an additional part-time weekend judge would really help. Outside of that, I mean, I know that sounds like a lot, but I don't see the fluff that you might immediately think of when you see 20 new positions.
Just saying, take a hard look at it.
Absolutely.
It costs, we need to be keepers of our citizens.
Absolutely.
It's, I'm just gonna lay it on the line here. I guess it's pretty disappointing when I see that we potentially are adding 4 full-time police officers and we don't have anybody at crossings at the schools. And it's a nightmare at Fountain Inn Elementary. It's a nightmare. I was over there yesterday. It's a nightmare. So all I'm saying is take a look hard at administration and look hard at what's on the road and look hard at our fire department. That's all I'm asking.
We got Greenville County gave us an increase on millage for 2 firefighters. So it won't be coming from the city.
Just take a look. That's all I'm asking.
We need
Get creative. Think out of the box. Are we doing? Do we need to continue to add people to solve problems?
record number of calls, man.
Okay.
I'm off with you on that. Then we're talking about the fire and the police. How many officers are per shift, on the road, like on an average shift? Like
We have 3 shifts that have 4, and one shift that has 3 currently.
Okay, so back
And
in,
in the days, what do we got? When everybody's here during the daytime with investigators, administration, yourself, how many are here in the daytime?
I think probably 10 or 12 during daytime.
Okay, I don't want to get into a debate on this tonight.
but it sounds like we need to.
I think we do.
Yeah.
But, you know, the goal is for the police department is to ultimately get 5 positions per shift. That's kind of what we're ultimately looking at as far as patrol goes.
But y'all still pretty well patrolled with what, when I was there, the same amount, with more people, or more citizens and everything, to try to patrol the same, or with the same amount of people with more citizens to patrol.
Okay.
I think with the number of homes we have on the ground, number of homes getting permitted right now, plus what's already opened up, I mean, I can see it. I mean, I know a lot of our staff works at our events on top of running a shift, for instance, and showing up. Across a lot of departments, but I know y'all especially kind of have to by our own laws, you have to be there. But, you know, I get asked a lot, what are we doing? How are we gonna support all the growth it's already locked in? Not necessarily just what's coming, but how do we support that growth and make sure that we provide a high quality service? I mean, I think, you know, I appreciate understanding the justification for all of them. I think that's really helpful to understand. You know, here's how it's funded. You know, here's how, you know, some of the police coming from, some of the fires coming from the village increase. You know, here's the true bottom line on our core expenses. So I mean, I know at some point we have to look at some sort of substation out on the other side of 385 for y'all, based on what's going out there. You know, it's, you know, got Station 3 we got to staff up for, but first to staff up there, we've got to be staffing everywhere else. It's just a trickle down, and then I don't know how many more people we can fit on our trucks, or trash in our trucks, until we really start having that.
Well, I think with that, one of the things that Mr. Slatton's doing is also trying to be more efficient. And so he's worked with Anderson University, and they've implemented some technology, and they're doing route optimization, and
He's been very successful with
exactly. And so yes, they have had to add some people, but they're also just trying to also be more efficient. But I will say, like, from a police standpoint, having 4 or 3 officers patrolling our entire city of Fountain Inn at a time is probably dangerous. I really think getting to that 5 patrol officers is a must for us. Now, I know where you're going with it, and I understand.
Listen, you know I support you guys 150%. I'm trying to get you some more money for better equipment at this point. You go back and revisit that. All I'm saying is think out of the box. Just think out of the box and see if there's some opportunities to move some people when we are staffed with 10 people on days.
The only question I have that's tangential is, do we have, suppose we have the lease for the cars for these in the budget?
It's represented in the operating.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I figured that. And I know at some point we're gonna have to talk about where they're gonna sit when they're, we'll talk about that one at some point soon.
Well, and also to just a reminder too, the department heads have been through probably up to 4 meetings in the process. The wants were eliminated, you know, the needs were brought to the table, as they exist at the present time. You know, I know it's a very creative team. They'll do what council asks, but definite review of the entire actual organizational chart takes place, and we even have meetings already set up based on after the second reading, whatever's approved, to go ahead and have another debriefing about how the organizational structures look, to make sure that we're also being as efficient as we can.
That's all I'm asking for.
Yep.
I'm not willing to die on the sword at this, and I'm
Right.
saying that I'm not getting any support.
So my question is there's 20.5 positions by fiscal year end. What's the FTE? Are they getting tiered in throughout the year?
Yeah.
So what's the actual FTE increase overall for the year? Because it may only be 10.25, depending on how you hire them in throughout the year.
Yeah, we have several being phased in. So, I think even on police, on the 4 officers, we were not having them start all at the same time. Recruiting for 4 officers July 1 doesn't make a whole lot of sense, so I think we tiered that. The city clerk administrative coordinator position wasn't gonna be hired until the Eduardo, Russell, Fred, Lori, all of them leave out of City Hall and go to their new building. Same with GIS. That also wasn't going to be hired until they got into their new building. So you're right. We definitely budgeted for a tiered approach on these.
I mean, 20.5 sounds like a lot, but over a year, depending upon what's going on, it's understandable. It's just, it's not exact FTE, full-time equivalent of what I'm used to hearing at work, so.
And to Rebecca's point, we actually did cut that list down. It was higher than this.
So it'd be good to, I think, if there's other questions, let's get an answer for you and then talk about it.
Yeah, and we're
It's
committed
really
to
helpful.
putting the folks where they need to be, revisiting some of the job descriptions. I mean, there's already been some pretty open brainstorm conversations about some of the positions that were put in this FY and how we can make sure we're supporting the efficiency of them. So we're not putting, folks in positions that are either not working or don't, meet the need of the city as they are. So I can tell you that, from an HR standpoint, it's definitely, a team effort with every single department head, going in once whatever you, as a team approve, going right back in there and looking at the organizational structure again and saying, okay, this is what we have now. Are we still, because we started in February. So at the end of June, sometimes things look different. What do we need for sure, and also look at our internal talent, to make sure that we're using folks to the best of their ability as well. Yep.
That's all I have.
I got you. Thank you, sir.
That's the personnel budget across multiple funds. As you can see, it's not all hitting general fund, natural gas, solid waste, sewer. It is spread across our general fund, and the positions, some of the positions are allocated to sewer and natural gas depending on the role. And so the overall increase in our general fund for salaries is 7%, 18% decrease in our sanitation, just because we've reallocated the department to streets and grounds, and 13% increase in natural gas, and then a 53% increase in sewer, just because it's 3 new positions, 1 supervisor role.
And is that a change that we're moving into the sewer? No, we're.
So the prior fiscal year, we dissolved the streets and grounds, and then after review, and council's goals for an improved and beautification of our prior year goals, we added back streets and grounds.
As part of that, we now know the true cost of providing solid waste or sanitation services. So as a reminder for the new folks on council, back in 2018, council increased our annual public works fee from $26 per year to $156 annually, which comes out to exactly $13 a month. So $13 a month gets our citizens once a week garbage pickup, every other week recycling pickup if they so choose, and once a week yard debris removal as well. I think if you were to do a kind of a survey across the state, $13 a month for that service is definitely on the low end. A lot of municipalities are now above $20 a month. Even once we have now allocated to where the solid waste fund is only paying for solid waste type of stuff, it's no longer paying for anything streets and grounds, anything like that, it is still not covering the amount of revenue that we get from that public works fee, is not covering the cost to provide that service. We are subsidizing it with the general fund. When this was proposed in 2018, I proposed it to council as it would be like an enterprise fund. They actually call it a special source revenue fund, but it would be treated almost like an enterprise fund, and that it should be self-supporting, self-sustaining. Right now it is not, and I don't know that it ever has been since we've started it. The general fund has always had to transfer money into the solid waste fund in order to make that solvent. And so we are proposing that we increase that fee by $1 a month. So it's $14 per month, which would go to $168 annually, which I believe is the same amount that Simpsonville is charging for their public works fee. Even at that, we still not revenue neutral there, but we cut that deficit quite a bit, and Naomi can talk further. But I think we would be doing ourselves an injustice to be adding COLAs, adding all these positions with the cost of everything going up that we've had to budget for, from pipe to everything, and to not realize that our costs have gone up. That it's time. We haven't raised that public works fee in 4 years, and only doing it by $1 a month at $14 a month is still, to me, is still a bargain. It's still much cheaper than if you were in unincorporated Greenville County and you wanted to pay for private service. You'd pay much more than $14 a month for service.
Well, we ripped the Band-Aid off in 2018.
That's right.
That was an unpopular decision.
Absolutely.
In many aspects. I don't see anybody having a lot of heartburn with $1 a month at this point.
You have questions about that?
Mr. Administrator, you alluded to that this still may not cover the expected deficit. What would the expected deficit be with the projected revenue of $625,000?
$185,000 will be transferred out of the general fund into the solid waste to cover the sanitation costs.
Is that because they added personnel and other costs being added in?
It is because of our debt now being realized in the correct fund.
Okay.
And so.
Now that debt is going to go down. We had several large equipment purchases 4 years ago. Some of those were big lease purchases in 2018, 2017. So we don't have but another year of paying that. So then that debt is going to come down. Now, obviously, in the future, we're going to have to buy more trash trucks and things like that. But especially when that debt payment goes down, then we'll probably be back closer. But I think as of right now, with what we've got projected, the public works fee would need to be about $18 a month. I think that that's too big of an increase in these times, but I think that incrementally, it was just what should have happened with that $26 a year, so that we didn't have to rip a Band-Aid off. But if that would have been incrementally increased over the years, I don't think people would have been so upset. So that's why I would recommend increasing it only by $1 a month.
I imagine fuel costs are really good, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, everything like that is, absolutely.
Are any of the big trucks like that run on natural gas? Okay.
They are not. Eduardo could talk a little bit more about that, but those trucks, when they run on compressed natural gas, I believe, right?
Yeah, that is correct. In previous lives, I have looked extensively at that. And the economics, unless you have an extremely large fleet, are not worth it, because your capital investment is so large to get that started that you never get your money back. So it's not, if we had 100 trucks, maybe, but otherwise, no.
Obviously, we have the natural gas, but it's not in the form that
It has to
we
be
need
compressed.
to run the vehicles. If we had that, the station that would compress it, then we would definitely look at that.
Anyone have questions about that?
Unfortunately, with that does require a separate ordinance. So this would be, in addition, this first reading of that ordinance would be proposed on Thursday in addition to your budget. And then the second one, like this, would be increasing our natural gas residential meter fee from $8 to $9 a month. If you look each month when we send you the natural gas rates, you see that ours is $8. Almost everybody's is above us on that base meter fee. Almost everybody's at 10. And so we're proposing to go from that residential from $8 to $9, and commercial and industrial would go from 90 to 101. And then we have budgeted in this upcoming budget for a rate study in both gas and in sewer, so we can get a more comprehensive fee structure. So we're not just grasping at straws. We can actually, if we do propose increases in the future, it's not arbitrary.
Any questions on that? Can you explain the facility revenue? Is that linked to the meter? Is that what that is?
Yeah, so those increases would equal our natural gas revenue increasing by $142,000.
Any questions from anyone?
The next few slides, we'll be breaking down our total budget by fund source or fund type, general fund operating revenues and expenditures. This chart represents the breakdown of our general fund operating and the percentages related to public works departments and police department and just running the general government through the general fund. And in the budget book, when you have that in front of you for Thursday night, a more in-depth description of those breakdowns will be included for you. The next slide is our general fund revenue summary. This chart highlights our revenues types by tax revenue, franchise fees, license and permits, and the increases from year over year from our amended FY22 budget to our proposed 23, which totals $11,764,000 in our general fund revenues. Notable is our property tax revenue increases in our license and permitting. Typically, license and property taxes is the highest. License and permits here in Fountain Inn seem to be creeping just under our property tax. This current FY, we're looking to collect over $725,000 in building permit fees. We projected $609,000 for FY23. Just to have conversations with Greg. More of a conservative, we can be anywhere from $600,000 to $800,000, just depending on when those permits come online. This slide here, I think is really nice. For every dollar that comes to the city, 30% of that dollar is property tax, 26% of that license and permits, 20% other financing sources, which includes our transfers in from other funds, and then 7% franchise fees, and the smaller ones would be our intergovernmental and our service charges and interest. The next slide, again, is just, I want to thank our Community Relations Department for presenting a digestible explanation for our millage. And so looking at the home values in Fountain Inn, as in previous we've presented at $100,000 or $150,000 home, but we're seeing $250,000 homes and wanted to present that to you. So let me break it down in my own mind. Our current millage is 68.7, and so every day the cost of the tax for that day on a $250,000 home is $1.54 per day, which is the equivalent of a soda. And so we wanted to present it to you that way. The cost of service to a $250,000 home value, is $1.54. And so it just makes it a little bit more digestible when you're looking at, property taxes and millage. That could be a little bit confusing, for our citizens.
So that's $562 a year,
Yes.
10 cents. You don't have to answer, Scott, off the top of your head, but it might be useful to know what's the cost of service as it equals.
Okay.
That, yeah, just, because I know what 250 used to be that point where we started to sort of make money,
Right.
for lack of a better term, but, I don't know, things are going up. I'm just curious if that needle's moving.
We can do that. We are not proposing a millage rate increase in this budget. We will continue to keep it at the 68.7, 11.6 of that is continuing to be the debt millage related to the IPRB issues, the annual GO bond to help pay for those, for the debt. You wanna add there?
Yeah. So almost all of the capital items that you guys were presented with is coming out of either ARPA or fund balance. And so when ARPA runs out, or we don't have a year where we're adding 700-something thousand to fund balance, we're not going to be able to add, or we're not going to be able to pay for as many capital items every year out of fund balance like that. So one of the things I think we need to think about is setting up some sort of a capital fund. We, I think, are writing into the budget ordinance this year that a percentage of what we put into fund balance every year will be set aside for that capital fund. But one of the things that we may want to look at is assessing some millage at some point that is dedicated nothing but a capital improvement fund. That can help us pay for vehicles, roads, what have you, out of a separate account, separate fund. I believe the City of Greer last year issued 2 mills and just to set up a capital fund. So when they go to buy things, they're not just out of general fund or just out of fund balance, they're hitting that capital plan or capital fund.
What we were talking about for this year is we had 700 and change and put our percentage at 43%. So I don't know what the number is that y'all are thinking about per se, but Sean and I have talked about this, so that's why I know what I'm talking about a little bit. Our minimum is 25. We like to keep about 30 to 35 as sort of best practice as in our reserves. Once we hit, say, 40 or whatever number we want to think about, once you hit 40, then that extra 3% or some portion of that 3% would just automatically go over. Because I think if, Mr. Clemmer and Mack will remember 2 years ago now, we bought the 800 radios, and to do that good investment, we hit the reserve, the unassigned fund balance. And so when you look at like the audit for that year, it sort of looks like we spent down our rainy day fund, but really we made a necessary capital investment. And so, yeah. And so if that, the question is how much of that, with that formula, how much of that becomes actual sizable amount of money.
Right. At the end of the day, it's a little bit of shuffling there. However you want to pay for it. If you identify a need and you have the money, it doesn't really matter, I guess, how you pay for it. But I think it's good to say, okay, we've set aside, we've hit that percentage of our expenses that we want to set aside for a rainy day fund, and the rest is we're going to set aside for capital, rather than always having to go back to that rainy day fund well to pay for capital improvements.
The next slide is our general fund proposed, which includes the presented positions you have in front of you, broken down as a percentage of the total personnel for the general fund. And overall, in front of you, you have the budget summary, and you can see in that midsection there, the personnel, the total cost of our governmental general fund departments, which includes the personnel and the related percentages. This just breaks out the personnel. The next slide is the detail in a list form over our FY22 amended. You'll see at the top there, just so that we're able to capture it and isolate the premium pay at the top, but everything else, the premium pay is not included in our projections for FY22. And you can see the differences over our 22 and 23 there in front of you. The next slide is our general fund proposed operating expenditures as a percentage, just looking at it like a pie, what portion of our total operating it is the highest amount, and that's our debt service expenditures at 28%. And then finally, our police and fire coming in just under them. If we were to pull out the debt service, police and fire would take up over 44% of our operating budget. Next slide is that same pie chart broken out in list form and in dollar amounts there. Natural gas fund revenue summary. Didn't update that pie chart there. Natural gas revenues make up 89% of the total revenue. The facility fee revenue, including the increase, is 8%. And every other fee type, our meter line recoupment, service charges and penalties and revenues, 1%, very nominal compared to the fund. We also dissolved our gas appliance center, and so we sold a lot of the gas appliances, made several attempts to sell on Gov Deals and dissolve the center, but overall, our net loss for operating that was just over $7,000. So we were able to clear our inventory balance. Any questions? The next slide is just our natural gas fund expense summary. You have our at the top of the chart with the sliding bar, the total other financing uses are transfers out to other funds compared to FY22. And then you see it broken down in list form, personnel, operating, depreciation, which is a non-cash amount, but has to show up on our P&L, and then debt service expenditures. Next slide is our sewer fund. This is our sewer fund revenue and expense summary on one slide. In the budget book, it will be broken out. You can see over FY22 to 23, our sewer fees collected through Greenville Water increased, as well as Lawrence Water. We will see an increase in the fees that Greenville Water charges. They've changed their fee schedule, and that is represented in the budget as well. And then finally, again, it's listed for you there in list form on the next slide. This is our solid waste revenue and expenditure summary.
Quick question.
Yes.
Sean or Russell, the sewer, is that what you're talking about, the sewer tap fees for Lawrence are going up like $100,000? See that? Sewer tap fees. Lawrence Water, is that revenue?
That's revenue.
Oh, that's the revenue one?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, the revenue's on the top and the
I need to learn to
expenses
read
are
my
on the.
columns, I'm sorry. I was like, that rate changed.
Oh, no.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
And the revenue was, it's a big jump as well. We under budgeted in our sewer on the Lawrence County side. several changes in our annexations. The next slide, solid waste revenues and expenditure summary. The first half of the slide is our different revenue types and expenditures represented by the different colors for FY22 compared to FY23. You can see 23, the proposed total revenue and other financing sources. Total personnel. All of the costs from 2022 to 2023 have decreased in the solid waste fund due to the changes that we've made and the increase in the solid waste fee. The next slide is our hospitality tax revenue and expenditure summary. It's a little small, so I'll just focus on the 21 hospitality tax actuals versus our 22 annualized. In 21, we collected just over $530,000 in hospitality tax revenue. We are projected to see an increase by year end of $627, not an increase. We are projected to collect $627,000 due to some store openings. We did have some closings as well, but our businesses who collect or prepare food did not see the decline due to COVID like some others. We actually stayed steady. And the increase in our events, we expect to see a large jump in our hospitality tax collections related to events and new store openings. And then finally, after all of the budget projections, personnel impacts, operating, we wanted to make sure that we looked at our general fund balance. Let's see, I had it fund twice there. That we are still keeping with our unassigned fund balance percentages. We are not going under the target 25%, but the headers there is our current year all the way through 2027. And if revenues stay flat, well, we've projected them out at 2% growth, and our expenditures at the same, we will continue to maintain our unassigned fund balance percentages. They fluctuate due to some capital items that is in year over year, but we will see the net earnings decrease in 23 and then again in 24, but still our cash on hand and our target unassigned fund balance is still very healthy.
And that's obviously conservative with only projecting 2% increase in revenue.
With that, if there are no questions, again, I'd like to thank you all for being patient with staff and with the finance department as we get you these items. By tomorrow, you will have the entire budget book to include the ordinance, the summaries of all of the funds. We will go back and include descriptions and updates for you for some of the questions that you have. But there is opportunity for changes to be made between now and second reading. But we are asking you to consider the budget on first reading on Thursday night and open up the floor on June 2nd for public comment. And then we will make any revisions between that point and June 9th on final reading of the budget. Thank you again to staff. Thank you to Sean and to our citizens.
Thank you, Naomi, and staff, and Sean, for all your hard work. Sure. Well, thank you for every meeting we have for this. Because I know it's a lot of work. I came into your office the other day, it was just paper.
Everywhere.
Anyone have any questions for Naomi or Sean? If you have any, be sure to email. Make sure you get try to get your answers in. Get your questions in so they have time to answer them before first reading on Thursday on the budget. It is just first reading. It's 2 readings of the budget, so just FYI. I believe that's it. Mr. Blackstone moves to adjourn. Second, Mr. Sanders, any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?